Hey, this is John Carlos, and I'm here with.
Eddie!
And did I point the right way? And
I
this
don't know.
is movies worth talking about. Texas Chainsaw Edition. We've already talked about one and two and three, and the Next Generation, and the 2003 remake. Now we're moving on to
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw: The Beginning, the prequel to the remake. Um,
Explain yourself.
okay, let me say this: I don't like this movie. Um, but
Mm.
uh, I can be won over, not won over, but steered away from total hatred by little things. Especially when you watch, I watched this right after Texas Chainsaw 2003. Um, Instantly, I'm thinking, oh fuck, we're showing the origin of his birth, which like who cares? But it's so, like I say this for so many of the remake eras, it's so needlessly grim and grimy.
Yeah, and epic.
The
Like,
whole
whoa.
the whole thing
Like,
is so brown,
yes.
and then it's like 1939, and then it jumps to like 20 years later, 1969.
Whatever. I don't
Yeah, it
care.
jumps to like 20 years later. And yeah, it's 1969 and or 68,
Yeah.
and instantly I'm like, oh, this scene isn't grimy. Oh, this scene isn't like the camera works. So, who's shooting? This is better. And then also like we go outside and like the sky gets to be blue and the grass is green. You didn't color time it to desaturate everything and make it needlessly early 2000s grim and grimy. Like the greens get to be green and the blues get to be blue. Like when these characters are outside, it gets to feel like a day in Texas outside. Kind of like the first movie when like they're outside and it doesn't just feel grim. Like I'm surprised how like cleanly shot and paced the movie is. Like it's a tight 90 minutes. And the nicest thing about it is they don't fuck around with the gore. And a lot of it is very practical and cool to watch. There's some gnarly kills in this that like I actually like rewound to go, oh yeah. You keep making a stank face at me this whole time. Um, it's competently directed. Um, I like that it doesn't like the first remake hits all the marks of like we're the kids and we're on the road and then we pull over and we talk we pick up a hitchhiker that does everything. We put someone on a meat hook. We have the come out of a bathtub instead of this one doesn't really do that, and that was refreshing that like they still end up at the house the barn, but it's not just like a beat for beat. I mean, this isn't a great script, this isn't full of compelling characters, but at least it isn't the same exact thing again. It doesn't follow the exact same structure, so like at least I wasn't terribly bored. Um, I won't go as far as to say that I like Jordana Brewster's character because there isn't a whole lot there. But when they get they're on the road and the biker girl and then the sheriff Hoyt shoots them and then it will like they she gets flung from the car when her friends get taken away and then she's there, the fact that she like gets in the car, she's at least trying to get the gun. She this isn't you can't obviously it's not the 90s, not the 2000s, you can't get on the phone. You're stuck on the side of the road. The fact that like it's not that she goes to the house because I feel like you got to go to the house, but when she gets and she's like crawling under the van, it's just the little things, but she's underneath the truck. And I'm like, you're actually like trying. You're not quite stretch or anything, but like I don't know if I could do what you're doing, and I find that interesting that like you're plotting how to get out from underneath this car and go save your friends. I like you that you're doing that. I can't really describe much of your personality, but like you're trying, and I like I don't hate this. It's not terribly good, but like I don't. It's watchable. in a way that like the first movie felt worthless and offensive, and I'm not offended by this. I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's fine. And then, but it had good gore, and it had a somewhat compelling lead. And again, it didn't offend me to look at it with all the needlessly wet darkness. It was all right, Eddie. It was all right. And I
All
like this.
right.
I like this Leatherface slightly more. Same actor, slightly more. There you go.
I'm it'll take too much time if I just shoot from the hip. So I'm just gonna read my notes, and if I have a comment in between or you have a rebuttal, by all means. Because I think I have like a page worth. It's not a lot.
Oh shit. Actually, let me say one last thing.
Go for it.
I will agree though. Uh, I, and I liked Solo. Okay, I like Solo, but I found it bullshit
Yeah.
still that everything we know about Han Solo, like, oh, he got the Millennium Falcon and he knows Lando and he lost it in a thing and the Kessel Run, and like, well, what if we put it all in one adventure? Like everything you know happened at one time, and it just felt like, oh well, Leatherface gets a mask and he gets a chainsaw, and the sheriff puts on a sheriff outfit and also gets his teeth knocked out, and Monty loses his legs all in one adventure. Like we have to prequelize the entire thing, and like these are things that we didn't need answered.
I
And
will say
the
also,
musical sting of seeing the chainsaw for the first time, like
right.
there it is, I got it.
I will shoot from the hip with this because I think it's in my notes, but I'll address it
Okay.
in context. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious that how does Sheriff Hoyt, if that is his name,
Yeah.
get to be Sheriff Hoyt? Well, killed someone and became the Sheriff Hoyt. And then how did Leatherface become Leatherface? Well, he killed someone and put a face on. And how did
How did he get his chainsaw? He looked over and saw a chainsaw and picked it
he
up.
saw a chainsaw and he got it. And it's almost like how it's almost like it feels like script writing from kindergartners if they were going to write Leatherface's origin story. Well, how like I feel like I'm sitting with a shy kid, like asking them, like, and then how do you think the old man lost his legs? Well, he got him cut off. You know, like that's
Yeah.
it. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Great. I'm glad we all know that. Okay. I wrote the quote. I don't understand Leatherface's mom getting told by her boss, well, that's what you get for drinking on the job, Sloan, while she's on the floor giving birth. And then when he sees that she's giving birth, he's like, you can do it. What? Leatherface just pops out. She's not
Yeah.
wearing underwear.
Well,
Why? I don't understand. She's at work, but okay. Then Dumpster Baby, because Phantom of the Opera.
yeah.
And so Grams, whatever her name is, what's it, Luda May, dumpster diving
Luda.
for babies, for something, and finds a baby, takes it home. Good for her. Toby Hooper and Kim Henkel produced this one too. Oh God. I just wrote during all the sexual intercourse with the leads. These movies were never about TNA or sex-crazed youths. So where's this coming from? We didn't even have that in the remake. So I'm like, fuck this shit.
Something different.
Trying desperately to convince me this movie is brutal, intense, and epic with the score and the cinematography. They may as well just scribe legendary every time something of significance happens. The Vietnam angle, I guess, was thrown in because the first movie was about post-Vietnam era America. So Vietnam, get it in there. And totally unnecessary, especially if the brothers who have already been out in Nam and fought don't get to employ those techniques ever throughout the movie. It's like, well, then why have it in there? Like one of them should at least get to fight like he fought Nam. I want to see some Nami shit, you know? Okay. So anyway, I don't even remember what this is. Crooked cops playing sadistic games with the movie's protagonists. I don't know what that means. Eric and Dean.
Those are brothers.
I just wrote Eric and Dean. I don't know why. Oh, when people criticize torture porn, I think this kind of movie is what they have in mind.
I don't get that.
No, I totally do, because there was something about it. Like, I mean, I feel like they moved into it with Arlie Ermey's section that I brought up for the remake with the gun against Morgan and everything, but I felt like it was effective and everything. When he's trying to get the younger brother to do push-ups and he keeps beating him down, and Matt Bomer is like watching him and losing it, and that lasted forever for me. And I was just like, what? And I don't care about the brother, but I know some things about him. And I don't want to see Matt Bomer sad, but I just didn't care. I was just like, I don't care, and this is long and this is excessive, and it's actually not even horrifying me, it's just depressing me. It's like I may as well just watch people get, let me
I get that.
Google on YouTube, Google on YouTube, search on YouTube videos of people getting the shit kicked out of them and just watch that for,
And Eddie, I can take that more than anything I watched in the fucking 2003 one.
Okay, I can't. Because at least for me, it all felt like it was, at least, even though again I don't like it, but or at least don't like it as much as I did, but it's fine. It's like, again, just kind of like, okay, things happening, getting from A to B. I can see the linear progression, but that was something I didn't get to bring up with the original. One thing I love about the original is it's similar, but everything's a bit, like there's a hook in every sequence. Like, now this is a sequence where this happens that leads us to this, and now we're in the sequence where this happens. But it's always interesting. I didn't get that with the remake, but at least I can still see the infrastructure, and I'm like, okay, this isn't hard to follow. Beginning, I had no idea where we were going. It didn't feel new. It felt sloppy. It felt directionless. And I love when Arlie Ermey says, "You shut your cocksucker, you son of a bitch." I wrote, almost interesting having someone lay on the chainsaw. That was kind of inventive with the biker, I think. When Jordana Brewster leaves the basement after Matt Bomer's death and all, no weapon. You know how I feel about final girls not grabbing a weapon when they're
that irritated me
too. Not even scary, just depressing. Window jump into nighttime chase, whatever that means. Blood covered heroin.
The one thing it does regurgitate is the last movie didn't do the dinner scene, so this movie does do the dinner scene.
Oh, that's right. And I couldn't stand that either, because I was just like, everybody's just dying, so it doesn't matter. I didn't care. Leatherface is a big dude. How did he hide in the back seat of that tiny car?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Because I'm watching the scene thinking, like, this feels like there's going to be a surprise. But how could he be back there? And then just, surprise, I am.
Yeah. There was nothing about this Leatherface that hooked me that I found interesting. Even seeing him with a fresher face and everything, I was just kind of like, ooh. I felt like this was the soulless entry.
That's how I feel about the 2003 one.
I know. I mean, there's...
I expected this to be the worst, and I'm just constantly going like, yeah, again, it's not, it's dull, but like the other one was like stinky, and I'll take dull over stinky.
No, I'd rather hold my nose than exhale, going like, is this going to be over? Boredom for me is the deal breaker. Yeah, that if I'm,
And also, like I say, dull, but like I honestly wasn't that bored. Like,
no, I was bored out of my mind. I was bored to tears, and I had seen this one before.
Her sneaking into the house, and then like Arlie Ermey on the other side of the window, and you realize the light's on in there, but not in there, and she doesn't see him.
I thought that was so stupid. No, I thought that was so stupid because
But I'm
he
just
can't see her because he's looking at his own reflection, but he would have seen her. There's
no,
light
he
being
would have.
cast on her
I'm just
face.
saying that whole sequence, like
No.
I wasn't ever bored following her into the house to get her friend. I didn't freak out about the TNA. I mean, I remember when you first see her, I'm like, okay. First of all, I thought, did those bras exist in 1968
68, I think.
or 69? Like that feels like a very modern bra. That outfit, like that
Oh, that
whole
was another thing. It didn't feel like the
well,
60s at all. It
so they're
was
having their TNA scene. I realized, well, because I remember thinking, are we about to see this dude's butt or her boobs or something? And then it just became like, no, we're just laying in bed. I'm like, oh, this is nothing. This is fine. This is not something the franchise hasn't like. This is fine. They're just in their underwear. Who cares? But Jordana Brewster and Matt Bomer are outside, and I'm thinking, I don't believe for a second that you guys are from the '60s. Like
no.
your hair.
Yeah.
Then we get all four of them, and they're in the just even in the Jeep they're in, just the way they relate to each other. I'm like, I don't believe for a second that this is the late '60s at all. I almost could believe it's the '70s, and I know that there is kind of a every decade has its crossover, but just the more the movie kept going, I'm like, none of this feels like 1969. I obviously wasn't alive then, but I've seen enough movies, and even though movies aren't reality, we still know enough just about general fashion, architecture, dialect. I don't need them to be talking like, "Hello, I'm welcome to my name's," but like it's just everyone's cadence, everyone's hairstyle. None of it felt like it wasn't from
No.
2005. And that
No.
actually
No.
becomes to me that's to me is a slight problem with 2003's remake, a bigger problem with this one, and also a pretty big problem in Leatherface 2017. So anytime the franchise tries to go period, just stick to the decade that you're in, please, because
I agree. I agree with
every
that.
producer, every movie has gotten it wrong.
Yeah. Oh no, I will agree. Particularly, I mean, even though I favor the
And this
remake
one's the
more than
worst.
you do, I don't think that it captures the 70s. It looks like a 2003 movie trying to capture 70s fashion or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's not the same thing at all.
But yeah,
Okay, that's all I have to say.
yeah, same here.
I really dislike it.
I know you do.
Next.
Things, and if I remember correctly, because I feel like we've talked about this a few times, Texas Chainsaw, otherwise known as Texas Chainsaw 3D. You enjoy it,
Yeah.
and I enjoy it, and
Mhm.
the more I've talked it in general, I haven't even said anything
Okay.
funny yet.
No, it's just your pause. It was elongated. I was like, am I supposed to
No,
do something more? Yes, I do,
no,
John Carlos.
no.
I enjoy this movie.
Literally, for the longest time, I feel like you and I are the only two people I know who like it. But just yesterday, fun story. I had to borrow the Evil Dead Blu-ray when we just discussed the Evil Dead movies. I had to borrow the remake, and I returned it to my friend, and we were
Mhm.
talking about horror movies on his front yard from a distance, and
Yeah.
he's now the second person besides you I know who liked it. So um, critics didn't like it. I don't know many audience people that like it. I can't call it good, but goddamn, do I enjoy this movie?
Mhm.
Um, even though I have my critiques, I can also just be like I just mentioned with the Texas Chainsaw the beginning. I can, and we've talked about this in other videos, where when it comes to a movie, there are things that are bad, but you can be won over by performance and characters, and
Mhm.
that can carry you over the bad things.
Yeah.
And I can experience bad movies that may have bad elements, but I can be carried over with tone and direction and intent. Um, so much so that I can watch Texas Chainsaw at the beginning and be like, well, the sky is blue and there's good gore in it. Um,
The sky is blue. Yeah, go on. Yeah, that's a good reason to like a movie. Go
After
on.
watching such an ugly brown movie, the sky was blue, and that was nice and refreshing. Um, this and that's like I'll never forget. Like I love Freddy versus Jason, and I remember mentioning that to you, and you really like went off on all the reasons why you don't like it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, those don't affect me because the things that I like really carry me through it.
Mhm.
And this movie, like, yeah, if you describe some stuff that's going on, mm, but I think the cast is doing a good job. It's solidly directed. It's got a nice kind of zip to it. I like the gore. Like
Mhm.
so. Um, let's before I get into it, give me your thoughts, your little preamble or whatever.
It's interesting how many of these movies I saw once and then didn't return to. And this is another one. I saw it in the
Oh,
theater. Yeah. And it wasn't for any particular reason. It's just like, well, I mean, do I need to? And I was like, well, I will someday. It's just, but this isn't. I think the incontinuity. Uh, it makes me not want to own them all because I just get frustrated trying to watch them and draw I don't know. I just don't think that much about it. But I remember I enjoyed it. It was a January movie, a January release. January horror usually is, at least a gamble. And
mm.
I mean, best case scenario, it's a gamble. Worst case scenario, fucking sucks. But I went with someone who liked it as well, and everybody was trashing it, and we were both like, but it was like the number one movie for at least a couple weeks that
No,
month.
it opened well.
Yeah, it opened at number one. I think it stayed in the top five through Oscar week, maybe. And there were articles about it, like, why is Texas Chainsaw 3D number one at the box office when it's this close to the Oscars? And it's like, fuck, shut up. Because people want to go have some fucking fun, and nobody puts in, at that time, nobody was putting any fun movies in the Oscars. But anyway, that's not always true. But seeing it in 3D was immersive. Somebody who doesn't like to be near chainsaws, that's another thing. Reason going back to ask me what bothers me about Leatherface. Chainsaw, I don't like it. It scares me. I don't like the noise. I don't like the teeth. I don't like
And you
it
you don't
being.
like it in 3D coming through the coffin right at you, and
Okay, coming through the coffin, one, and also when he fucking throws it
oh
at
yeah,
the
Clint Eastwood's
amusement
kid.
or the amusement park, I screamed out loud in the theater, no, and flinched. It's 3D. It's not going to hit me, but I have such an aversion, and I think I completely, anyway, embarrassed the person sitting next to me. But and I agree with you. I don't think it's like a quote end quote good movie, but I think it's a good ride. I wrote something down that
Yeah,
I'm not even looking at it. Hold on.
you looked
Yeah,
that up.
I wrote.
Joss Whedon.
Okay.
Joss Whedon was talking about the Avengers that he directed. He's like, I don't. He's like, if people like it, I'm glad. He's like, but I don't think the Avengers is a good movie. It's a good time.
Mm.
And I
No,
disagree because I actually think Avengers is quite a good movie. But
so do I.
um, but I see what he's saying about other movies I can apply that to, and I absolutely feel that way
Right.
about this. I think it's a great time. I own
Oh,
it. I
yeah.
bought it right when it came out. It's flawed, but I
Ultimate.
really dig it.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. But this is the thing. I wrote this down, and I feel like this kind of encompasses my general feeling about it. This movie may be mindless, but it's not heartless. That's the hook for me. There's something, again, like at this point, to see a movie full on embrace the lack of continuity
Mm-hmm.
and cast Bill Moseley as Drayton Sawyer in the flashback, and cast Gunnar Hansen as, I don't know, W.E. Who was he? I don't know what his name was.
I think I think in the bonus features he's like Sawyer #1.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And then was it John
I mean,
Dugan
like,
came back for was his name John Dugan? But Grandpa's back as Grandpa in the chair.
yeah.
Yeah.
And very, I mean, the makeup worked. I was just kind of, but I mean, even the house, it's just like, it looks clean. It doesn't look, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they rebuilt the house to the
Yeah.
specific, which is great. And I know they're like, well, look, we got this chicken and we put it in the cage, but like there isn't
Yes.
enough
No.
feathers and bones on the ground. The walls are just
No.
slightly too clean. And I love
Yeah.
K&B, so I hate talking shit. It's like that Leatherface mask they made. Like I get you tried, but that's
Hmm.
whoa. Like the make that maybe it's also because like, well, that's how it looked when it was lit and shot on 16 millimeter. Here's how it really looked like though, but with these, the red cameras. But no, it's the makeup's it's a little bit too much, but I appreciate the attempt.
Sure. Oh yeah. No, I was
You know,
like in geek heaven. I think I was in a
yeah.
similar place. Although I didn't walk in with this mindset, but I think I mentioned this before. Going into Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom, I went in with the perfect mindset to not be disappointed because the only review I heard was not a review. It was just someone on Instagram who I follow who had seen a preview of it or something and just said it was ridiculous. I loved it. So I went in expecting it's going to be ridiculous. And when it was, I was like,
Yeah.
so it didn't bother me. I was just going to like, that's ridiculous. And then the rest of it, I was just, whenever it wasn't, or whenever, something was less ridiculous, I was just going like, I like that. That's ridiculous. And I just had a fun time with it. With this one, I think also it's called Texas Chainsaw 3D, when it was in the theaters.
Hmm.
You can get it on a Blu-ray, 3D Blu-ray, which I want. But
And the title card itself is just Texas Chainsaw.
there's something, yeah. But so there's something about like it being released when it was, and I was just kind of like, well, I mean, I'm glad they're returning back to the original thing, but are they really going to be able to do that effectively? I don't care. What do they do? Bill Moseley, Gunnar Hansen.
I mean, all the times they try to get Gunnar Hansen back, and the fact that
Yeah,
you got Marilyn
and
Burns back, you've got
yeah,
Hansen back.
but there
It
was
almost
something
feels like a
about,
stamp of approval just to have them there,
in a way, like, I
in a
mean,
way,
again, it was like,
almost.
oh, my little fanboy heart,
Yeah,
like, why not? And it was, but also, I mean, and then to embrace the ridiculousness and go like, oh my God, there's like a whole family suddenly
look,
in the climax, what followed the climax of the first movie. Like, okay, you all were just tucked away,
I
or you were
really,
there the whole time.
I really, really like this movie, but I can pick all sorts. I remember sitting in the theater going, "What?
Yeah,
Like, I shouldn't. I already have to do the work now. Fuck. So where did all these people come from? Okay, so I guess they called, and there are other Sawyers because you do see a car pull up and like two people like get out and run into it,
yeah, yeah.
but there's already like eight other people there.
It made me think about the way you introduced me actually to the Resident Evil movies, just saying like every single time a new movie starts, it's like a kid, like, was playing yesterday. They came back and they decided to change the game. They have the same action figures, or maybe they only have a few, they have their favorites and the other ones are gone, but they have
Yep.
some toys they borrowed or something they haven't played with a long time. And then it's the next day, and then they're just kind of like, now I want you back in this movie. And now we're in the desert. Now we're in the snow.
Now
Yeah,
I want you to have your
exactly.
powers back again.
Exactly.
She's gonna have an army of clones. I don't want to play clones, so fuck it. We're gonna kill the clones in the first 5 minutes. We're gonna have the
So
big
that
battle
was
in Washington D.C. Next movie. Oh, you missed out the big battle in Washington D.C. All right, like
exactly. So again, I was just kind of like, I'm game for that. I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. I mean, I've seen things I like. I like that Alexandra Daddario, so the first kind of inkling, yeah. But the first kind of inkling that she's like, connected, like, like spiritually to the Sawyers. I love that they're the Sawyers. Seeing them not be the Hewitts made me so
yes,
happy. Is her bone art,
yeah.
I'm,
Well,
and then
she's
watching,
already at the grocery store cutting the meat, which is like the
yeah.
first, yeah.
But even that,
But
like,
she
she's not
brings the
like,
bones home, and her boyfriend's like,
yeah. No, that was when I first really, because I mean, cutting the meat, it's like, okay, whatever. But anybody can cut meat. But when you take bones and make art out of it, your
"You're
uncle
Sawyer."
or your Sawyer, yeah, you're a
Yeah.
Sawyer. I even enjoy her shitty one-note adoptive parents. I don't enjoy them, but they serve their purpose. And it's kind of like, yeah, I don't like you either. You get out of there, Alexandra Daddario. What's her character's name again? I don't remember.
Heather.
Oh, right, another Heather. I wrote
Yeah,
that too. I was just
two
like,
Heathers. Yeah.
oh, another Heather in the franchise for me to like for completely different reasons. But yeah, I love Marilyn Burns playing Verna.
Mm-hmm.
And also, this movie, in an odd way, was the turnover because I've definitely had moments where I sympathize with, or even enjoy, and dare I say it, like the Sawyers or members of the Sawyer family. But this one really had me kind of rooting for them because I was looking through Heather's eyes, and even though the stack of backstory and exposition is conveniently left in the room with her, and she sees exactly what she needs to see
Yeah.
to light the fire underneath her, I'm still, her performance
Mm-hmm.
and
It's
my
hard to
own,
act while you're just reading and sell me on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But her there's this, again, this strange connection that she's feeling that totally works for me, because I almost share it just because I even know more about her origin family than she does, and I want her to find out, and I don't mind, because I don't like seeing Leatherface being bullied. I kind of don't mind and start rooting for them to just take these vigilante motherfuckers down, because yeah, what the Sawyers did was wrong, but what you did was wrong too. So, and you kicked an unarmed woman in the face, you done stole her baby, and and then had it raised by resentful people who treat her like, who see, I mean, it didn't seem like an exception, like just a bad day, like they genuinely seem like shitty parents, like she doesn't feel any kind of connection to them. She even says it in the script. So
No, I think
I don't
her
know,
adoptive
it's,
father is the one who takes the baby and kicks, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's
I only
yeah,
saw it once
yeah.
after seeing it in the theater now, and I
No, but
need
yeah,
to own it and
but
commit it to
but
memory.
Bert Hartman is not the one who like takes the baby and stuff. I'm pretty sure.
Right,
I know they
right.
yeah, they look similar, but yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to tell, it's just like a sea of white faces, but um
racist.
they're just all angry, torch
Yes.
wielding, pitchfork
Yes.
people. But no, I also, one thing that I it had me laughing. I think it was revealing Leatherface's workspace underneath the manor and everything.
Oh, he's so fruity with the makeup.
But no, but not even that. I mean, that I was just kind of like, oh well, okay, we're still. I guess we're leaning into
I like they kept it,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
just want to
yeah.
laugh at their reaction to it. I'm like,
Yeah, but no, but I don't even mean them. I mean,
okay.
at one point, we're just kind of exposing the space in and of itself, and there's the camera crank,
Mm-hmm.
showing. But I'm just kind of like, okay. In the first movie, that worked because we introduced it as the camera crank noise, taking photos of, like the remains of the house, or sections of, like whatever. Um, but or like the grave robbing, and stuff like that, like, oh, corpses, look at this, look at that hand, look at that, and then later it comes back to kind of sting, as a dramatic sting to add flavor to a moment, like,
It
like,
shows
oh,
up
I'm
in a few
popping out
ways.
of the freezer and shit like that. In this one, it's just kind of like, here, look at this corner, and then it's like, if nobody's taking a picture of it, you
Right.
haven't earned that yet,
Well,
movie.
like
I mean,
even Texas Chainsaw the Next Generation, they're using it for photos being taken.
exactly. So oh yeah, nightmare scenario in the coffin with the chainsaw and everything like that. Okay, what is up with that Ferris wheel? Because she jumps on it.
Yes. I would not have done that because eventually you're going to come back around and he will just be waiting for you, which he was.
Exactly. And also, it is the most precarious position. Like, how you could die with no help from Leatherface at all, or you could get injured, and then Leatherface has got you because you
And
broke
then
both your legs.
you're lucky there were people in there because if it was empty, you tip it.
Yeah, right.
So and I think they're holding on, like they're helping her. Like, and these poor people are now responsible for your life.
Yeah, right.
What an asshole.
um, oh yeah, I just wrote, it's ridiculous and I love it. Oh, I love when she inscribes murderers on the photo. before she leaves.
Yes.
Of all of the people, just
I
to let them know.
know.
Exactly.
I know now.
And this is how I feel.
This is where I'm. Yeah. It's. Do you ever do this where like the criticisms against a movie don't like you're like I don't care. It's kind of why I love it. But also since you love it, it's almost like roasting it. Like I love it because these things are bad, and let me tell you
Yeah.
the things that are bad, and I love it because of this.
Yeah.
Allow me to go into some of these.
Please
Again, a movie
do.
that I very enjoy.
Yeah.
It opens in 1973.
Yes.
Alexandra Daddario is in her 20s.
Yes.
And you think, well, does this not this maybe it doesn't take place now. It doesn't take place now. That's got to be why, right? Otherwise this wouldn't make any sense. All right. And no one's got a cell phone in this movie. So even though
Yeah.
they're all dressed like it's 2012 or whatever, fuck it. You know, they got the costumes wrong and all the period. The last two Texas Chainsaws,
Yeah.
misremembering what the 90s looked like. And then we get to the house, and Verna's grave says 2012 on it. And then you're like,
Yeah.
so it's 39 years later. And you're telling me
Yeah.
Dario's supposed to be almost 40?
Yeah.
And you're telling me that Sheriff Hooper and Bert Hartman look like this 40 years later?
Right.
You know what? Fuck it. I don't care. Fuck it. Fuck it. I don't care.
Exactly.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't care. It's interesting for a movie, especially if it's ignoring, all the sequels and saying we're picking up after one,
Yeah.
to immediately victimize the Sawyers to the point, where like your protagonist is identifying with them and revenging for them and giving her cuz his chainsaw, and we're now rooting for them to take down Bert Hartman.
Yeah.
Considering what we just saw them do in the previous movie with murdering and eating people and all that, it's a bit of it's a hard about face for your audience to ask your audience to make. I will admit, to instantly make them the anti-heroes immediately after Texas Chainsaw 1, it's a bold thing, and I mean, I'll go with it, but I see why audiences didn't.
Sure.
Even the way the first opening scene is played, like I love fuck my brain, but Chop Top, Bill Moseley.
Mm-hmm.
He's not doing like a Drayton Sawyer impression, and he's
No.
also he's playing not like a victim, but he is being victimized in this opening scene, and he's playing it pretty straight. Like they're instantly making you take Drayton Sawyer and expecting you to feel bad for him and what's happening. Like like they're monsters. I like this movie goes, you know what though? Because we've seen movies. My favorite version of this is the Devil's Rejects. But when you take the monsters and then you make Cop or the Law or the Pursuer a bigger monster, and it's a very simple premise. We've all seen the Who's the Bigger Monster movie,
Yeah.
and I think that one's done really, really well. Whereas this one just instantly just repurposes things. Because well, no, there are bigger monsters. It's these yokels that show up with their pitchforks and their torches. And okay, all right. Why did I write the words? Oh, I'm very amused by the cop who's inspecting the van, and then he calls Sheriff Hooper, and fucking Bert Hartman's there. Bert Hartman's not his boss, and the sheriff's like, "Don't go in that house. Wait for backup or whatever." He's like, Bert's like, "No, go in now. I want to fucking know what's going on." So he starts going into the house. I'm like, "Well, you're the worst cop ever because you're ignoring a direct order from the sheriff." But also the fact that Sheriff Hooper is just constantly like, "Well, he doesn't get like, hey, get your ass back here, or you're fucking fired, or you're fucking reprimanded." But then like, well, there's some stuff here. Pull out your smartphone. The other thing in the whole movie, and then all of a sudden there's a smartphone. So now you know. Okay, we are in 2012, but there's blood all over the ground, and Bert's like, "You go down there." And like that's when you go, "Oh fuck, I'm calling for backup."
Right.
Bert told me to keep going.
Yeah.
And also the fact that Sheriff Hooper's such a dope for just standing there and watching on the phone with him. But yeah, and then the worst for me is he goes down there and Nikki comes out of the freezer and this fucker shoots her in the face, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
one, she was alive and now she's not, and
Yeah.
two, like now we have like a video, two people witnessing police brutality, murder. We're not gonna go there, are we? We're not gonna. Okay, fuck it. We're moving on.
He literally says it never happened. Or it
Which
didn't
is actually
happen.
probably pretty true to life, really.
Oh God, yeah, that was depressing. Thank God the movie kept going.
This movie is it's very low on my list, but it is on my list of movies that actually take place at Halloween. However, it's not a good movie to watch at Halloween because they mentioned we're going to New Orleans for Halloween. They mentioned that there's a festival in the town. You do see like a truck drive by with some people, and the carnival they're having. It reminded me, like when I was a kid, my school had the Autumn Fest, where it's not really decorated for Halloween; it's just decorated for fall. But this movie does take place over like a Halloween weekend. And that's neat. I kind of wish they did more with that. One of the things these are all the little nitpicks. Also, big nitpick for me. I love the gore in this movie up to a certain point. There's so many cool practical kills, especially with the Kenny, the chef, like on the hook and getting cut and all this stuff. So to set up every major kill is done with a pretty good stabbing, bloodletting gore effect. I think K&B did this one. Only to have the one guy you're really rooting for to die, Bert, is like this shitty fucking Pixar CGI digital blood death. It's so disappointing. I want like a K&B torso falling down there, and I don't get it. I don't get that. But here, let me. These are all the little nitpicks and things I joke about. But I love this cast.
Yeah.
I'm a big Alexandra Daddario fan. I tend to watch almost everything she shows up in, even like the Can You Keep a Secret rom-coms, like the ex, like all her like. But yeah, she's great. I'll watch her in fucking anything. And she's. And I was also going into this. I was already a Tanya Ramonde fan because of Lost. But she has one scene in Chillerama, and she cracks my shit up. I like her a lot. And so your two female leads in this are really good. I want to take a moment because I've never gone down like the rabbit hole of all the bonus features on the Blu-ray. But they include like when you do like the little webisodes, and they included these like 5-minute that they were originally online and now they're on the bonus features. And they're, even though you have committed documentaries and usually the web promotions are a little more fluffier, these are more like fly on the wall, just sort of them shooting scenes.
Oh.
And it's the van's overturned and the two of them are in it, and then Leatherface is sawing his way into the windows.
Yeah.
Songs is bleeding out of his neck. The first thing that really surprised me about it was that even though it's an exterior nighttime scene, it was filmed on a soundstage because it doesn't feel like it. But moreover, it's just like a plate of grass and then like a van and then like some big black curtains.
Oh my God.
And because it's 3D and I think you need to have a certain amount of light to really capture what you're shooting, they still like it's. I'm constantly fascinated by lenses and aperture and how much light's being let in, because it's completely brightly lit outside when they're filming, like the crew and everyone standing around. It's not darkened. Like the black curtain and just the way it's shot, like they managed to capture enough darkness behind them. But like, it's so fascinating that you as an actor you're lit. And in fact, the back of the van is open for the cameraman to be in there. So like you're looking at like a brightly lit soundstage with like a black curtain to the side of you. And first of all, that's just good camera work and good production. But here's what got me. Because Tanya Ramonda doesn't get all these, there's no like Macbeth monologue.
No.
So I don't want to say it's not the showiest part, but I'm just reminded of the challenge that actors face even on movies like this, because you're supposed to be scared, right? So they're about ready to roll, and they tell them they're about ready to roll, and she goes, okay, and she starts doing she takes like a second, and she's just kind of by herself. Well, she's with Alexandra Daddario, but she immediately just goes, and it's like a child. It's not even scared. It's like, and she has like these three wails, and then they're just like action. And she's like, ah! But I'm watching her going like, it's been a while since I just kind of watched an actor prepare for a moment, but I immediately, like, I would be the unprofessional one on set to be like, oh my God, are you okay?
Oh
Like,
God.
she is going through something to get herself there.
Yeah.
Just so that it can be a chainsaw going through a glass. It's not just screaming for her. She had to like go there. It was fascinating for me to watch her do that.
Yeah.
I do have another little nitpick of mine. I don't. I remember I had this feeling in theaters, and I've seen every movie since then. I'm hoping I'll catch something that'll fill it in for me. Heather's dating Ryan. Nikki's supposed to be like, hey, here's this guy Kenny. He's going to come along with us.
Yeah.
We found out that Ryan and Nikki fucked once.
Right.
And he doesn't want to talk about it again. But now they're getting kind of wasted, and she's like, hey, I'm in my underwear and I got booze.
Yeah.
When Leatherface is fucking shit up and they come out and she's in his shirt and he's like they're cheating.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that. Like, it's a movie.
Yeah.
This is a story we're telling. And I'm waiting for the next beat of that story. And then instead, like, nothing happens. And then I remember thinking, so why? If you just want to get an actress in her underwear, why didn't you have her fuck Kenny? Like, I don't understand. Like, now I just feel bad that Heather doesn't know.
Yeah.
She never finds out. Like, I was waiting for that to happen.
No.
And then maybe she's mad at Nikki, so when Nikki gets killed, she's like, fine, fuck you. Or like she's conflicted about it, but nothing. It's like a thing. And I hate that I know more about Heather's relationship than she does, even though she's a fictional character.
I agree.
Alexandra Daddario is so endearing in the movie that I feel terrible for her.
No, I agree with you to a point, but I do think that because you mentioned something about like the switch, like, you know, like the anti-hero thing on the Sawyers and everything like that. One thing that I appreciated was even this time when I knew that the flashback was going to be there and then we were going to be in present day somehow, I still appreciated the fact that the movie proper was treating the kids she was traveling with, for the most part, as relatively antagonistic characters. Like, these are going to be the people who, it seemed to be actually kind of like more traditionally slasher, like, we're going to be rooting for Leatherface to pick these people off because except for
Kenny, he likes to cook.
Yeah. Kenny was a nice guy.
Yeah.
But all the others, it's just like, yeah, get those fuckers out of there.
Oh yeah, Daryl can fucking die.
Yeah. So
because button that shirt up. It's raining outside. Who are you trying to impress here?
But also just like the fact that I like the fact that they were introduced as like potential threats or whatever, like they were going to be the heavies, and then it's just kind of like, no, remember the first scene there, you know, the vigilante people with the heavies. I don't know, there was something about it that it wasn't a bait and switch. It wasn't terribly, you know, like a deft hand going like, and reveal the twist. But I don't know, it just distracted me enough that I forgot, like, oh yeah, this town's gonna have to pay.
Yeah. I never got the sense that the people in the van were potential antagonists. I
did, because I was rooting for them to die, except for Kenny. He was like, he would be like the one who I would be like sympathetic for if he died, or the one who I would be hope would be like standing shoulder to shoulder with Heather when she's outrunning Leatherface before she realizes her destiny or something.
You know, like in real life, like if you found out that Nikki and Ryan were boning, you wouldn't wish them to be dead, but it's horror movie rules. So if they commit like a sin, it's okay for them to die. I prior to finding that out when they're in the grocery store, I don't think I'm not rooting for them to die. I don't think of them as antagonists.
No, okay, I don't mean introduced, but I mean when that element is introduced and just kind of like, oh fuck no, you're not. Okay. I'm Team Heather. So you're not gonna fuck with my girl.
No, this
Heather.
movie is. I mean, it's definitely a Team Heather movie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got so irritated, even in theaters. I remember when I don't remember his name, but Verna's lawyer, when he's like, "Hey, here's the stuff. Here's here's the letter. Be sure to read the letter." And then like she gets up to the house, and I'm like, "Why haven't you read the letter yet?" And then they're hanging out partying. I'm like, "Why haven't you read the fucking letter yet? when the lawyer says read the letter, like read the fucking letter.
Yeah.
And then at the end of when they're having these, like, you didn't read the letter. I'm like, yeah, you dummy. Like, I like Heather, but you're a dummy because there's a Leatherface in your basement and you didn't read the fucking letter.
Yeah.
Um,
I blame the writer for that, not Heather.
yeah,
But
it's definitely a writing.
no, another thing I blame the writer for is well, because there's another thing I blame the writer for. The fucking mark on her chest that Leatherface
have a
must
problem
see, so her chest pops open off camera. All of a sudden, the shirt is just open while she's hanging there.
Oh, no, when he's putting her, here's the thing. I had to go back and rewind it. I swear to God, it looks like when he's putting her up, he like does this swipe.
Oh, I didn't see it.
And I'm like, it's kind of, I still am not 100% sure he does it, but he's definitely doing like a motion. I'm like, if that's true, ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
Okay.
But yeah.
It seemed like her shirt was open suddenly. I didn't. Okay, I have to watch it again. But I was just kind of like,
worse. I'd actually rather just bust open than like this fucking sicko put his hands on.
No, even then I was just kind of like, oh, I appreciate it, and I'd actually, yeah, I'd prefer that. Like, it needs to be open. So there, it's open because he needs to see her.
He does.
You know, her scar.
I mean, they could have done it one better, not one better, but like they could have had her topless, you know, just so we can see her scar. But they didn't go there. Which
no, they didn't go there.
No, my little thing with the thing is so that when she's an adult, it's the same size as the necklace, but it burned her when she was a baby.
Yeah,
and it was the necklace size as the baby, so it should be bigger. It should be proportionate.
Is that what happens with scars like that?
Yeah, but if it's this big when you're maybe not when you're like 10 years old versus 20, but like when you're a baby and like your little fingers are only this big and your torso is only this big. Yeah, like that size, it should be like it should be. I don't get it. I love this movie.
Me too.
I do like it's hard for I do love it. And here's the thing. I know that I don't want to say it's a betrayal, but I know it's not like a worthy follow-up to the first movie. It isn't thematically, it isn't tonally. I just think it's a fun time, man, with a fun cast, and I like the gore, and I like, even though maybe it's not the best Texas Chainsaw movie, I think it's still a good Leatherface movie, if that makes any sense.
Totally, to me, yeah.
I really enjoy the pace. I really think the cast is doing a fun time. I think the kills are great. I like the energy. It's got some fun chases. I also think that's another thing where if now what they established in the following movie, which is still like the same production company and stuff. I forget what year he exactly was born in, but then like, you know, then he's a teenager in the 50s. So like, I did the math, like, so like if she should be 39 and Leatherface should be 75.
Right.
He is not 75 in this
movie. He is not.
But he is supposed to be older, and he carries himself the way I feel like an older Leatherface's physique would be carried.
I even thought he was an interesting composite Leatherface, kind of like, because there is a looming threat with him that I didn't feel from like OG Leatherface, my Gunnar Hansen, but it didn't feel out of character the way Chip Shrek did, you know, in the remake for me. It felt like it was earned like through time, and felt like
I believe that he aged into this Leatherface. I believe it.
And also that he was isolated. I mean, there were too many factors. I was just kind of like, if you were isolated that long, I mean, who knows how long you've been locked down there, just waiting for someone to come find you and feed you and everything like that. Like, you're mourning, you know, and I mean. There was so much to take into effect. There's like two things left that I have to say, and they're both character oriented, and I think you'll appreciate them. The first one is when Heather kind of moves into her Sawyer-ness in the back of that cop car.
Yeah, I'm a Sawyer.
I'm getting such like evil Fairuza Balk vibes from her. Just the way her face contorts and everything. Oh my God, it's amazing. I just wanted more of that. I'm just like, I don't mind if she comes back in any form as a family member. You know, she could be Heather again, but I mean, just like let her let her be a Sawyer again. Like, I'd prefer it if she were Heather, but if she just plays a Sawyer, I'll take it. In this next movie, if she's in it, awesome. If she isn't, I'm going to be like, okay, well, maybe next movie. The continuity is on her side, in that it's non-existent in this franchise. But the other thing, okay, and this is like, I don't know. I didn't, because I don't remember if this happened in the theater. I had forgotten this happened, but it happened this time. When they come back from the fight, and they have that wonderful just sequence of them walking back, kind of together, but kind of not. They're not like shoulder to shoulder. She's kind of straggling behind and everything. And they get back into the kitchen.
I was hoping you were going to say this, because when we were talking about Leatherface, I was going to bring up the kitchen.
So they go in the kitchen and everything. And I forget how they do it. They have some kind of, dance they do around the kitchen, but he sits down, and that's the thing. He sits down and she comes over and she takes the cloth. She puts it on his face. And he's looking her in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about performance. Very little mouth acting at that particular moment, but talk about performance through the eyes. He's looking at her. And I feel everything. I feel it's all Leatherface. It's being out of touch. It's needing someone. It's not really understanding human compassion. It's the grizzled, older Leatherface being touched in a tender way that he doesn't know what to do with. It's looking family in the eye and not wanting to look away. It is so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And I broke down. I cried.
Of course you did. It's a great scene, though.
It was so amazing. I felt like I was getting the insides of Leatherface that I kind of always knew was there, the vulnerability and the need for connection and love and a family and a sense of belonging and all of that. But after everything they'd been through, and especially, I don't know, after their loss, it just spoke so much to me. And just to see someone touch him, it was really sad and beautiful. It was,
and clearly the about face turning him into an anti-hero has worked for you, because these elements are touching you.
Yeah, I didn't mind.
And again,
I was like, he's got family again. Good.
And I absolutely believe, just like before, that he ate, like, this wouldn't, to me, work in like a Texas Chainsaw 2. I feel like this older Leatherface having this moment is really believable.
Agreed. Totally agree.
Yeah, and his name's Dan Yeager, and he gives again the eyes. You lose so much with that mask, which also not my favorite mask, but also not towards the bottom. I'm okay with Leatherface's look in this movie. I'm certainly okay with the hair. I like his physique, and I like his eyes a lot.
Me too.
I like his eyes a lot in this movie. Actually, it's you wanting what? No, you go ahead.
No. Yeah.
Okay. No. One of my favorite things about this movie. I love when a movie leaves you on a high note, and I especially love / hate when movies. I'll give you an example. Like I did not like the Thomas Jane Punisher movie. I loved the last minute, and when that movie ended, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like him on the bridge and there's like a voiceover. I watched this whole movie about him and Travolta. But at the end of the movie, he is the Punisher now, and it's like, all you fucking sickos, all you fucking bastards and rapists, like, I'm coming for you. And I'm like, that movie, I want to see that movie now. We got there, and I want to see it. This movie I already liked, but when it ends, so I'm already on board. However, the movie, she comes down, she delivers him the food.
Yeah.
Look, and the fucking door slams. I just went, oh my God, she inherited this house and she has her own Leatherface.
Yeah.
I want to see a movie now about Heather. She has like my pet Leatherface.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what I would call it, my pet Leatherface. But like,
no,
I need her to be living in Texas, and like something goes wrong. Like, I don't want her to be like the witch unleashing the monkeys, but like what happens next that involves Leatherface I don't want him like breaking loose. I want, if we're gonna go down the path of like we're now pro Sawyer and pro
Mm-hmm.
murder, like, and she's embracing this
Uh-huh.
side of her, like, oh, I want to see what's next. And we barely sort of, have you ever stayed through the credits?
Yes, I was just gonna ask you. That's what my
We get it for a
thing
second.
was.
It's like the closest
Yeah.
I'll get to a sequel, which is, and I love it. It's such a comedy beat
Yeah,
with her
it's
shitty
great.
fucking adopted parents, and they're even like, well, we're gonna get the money, pretend,
I almost love her.
yeah. But it's the comedy beat of
Uh,
and then just black.
yeah, I loved
Oh,
it.
it's great. Oh, it's fucking great. I do have to give props or make reference to, we were talking about how Caroline Williams uh, played Stretch in Leatherface,
Mm-hmm.
and then we didn't talk about this, but she played Stretch again in Hatchet 3. The
Right, right.
character's not named Stretch, but they're like, it's Stretch.
It's Stretch. Yeah.
Then she played Stretch again, but not Stretch, but it's just a fun gag. But in Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens, um, which, hey, for everybody out there watching, I've seen all the Sharknadoes and I like them all. I think they're a fucking party, man. I think they're great.
Eh,
But in The
okay.
Fourth Awakens, I don't know if you know this, Eddie, but like one of the main weapons of choice in the franchise is a chainsaw.
Yeah. No, I saw the first one.
Okay, so he's always sawing down, and at some point there is I think the Fire NATO is coming because they have like the Electro NATO and the Fire
Jesus
NATO. Yeah,
Christ.
it's so good. No, but he needs a weapon, and they pull over to this town, and there's a store that has Dog the Bounty Hunter and Caroline Williams and Dan Yeager, and she's like, "Hi, my name's Stretch. Welcome to the store. What can we do for you?" And it's like, "Well, I need like a chainsaw." "Well, we got chainsaws, isn't that
Oh
right?"
my
My brother Gunner will help you. And Dan Yeager is playing a guy named Gunner. I
Gunner.
think they even say the Saw is family in it, but like she
Mm.
even mentions, like, even though it doesn't make any sense because he wasn't the cook, but she's like, "Oh yeah, we got this, we got that, and if you like chili, my brother Chop Top sure does make a good thing of chili or something."
Right, right. No, she's
And
just throwing names
yeah,
out
and then
and making references and shit. Yeah.
it's all just references. I know the director was a big fan of hers in Texas Chainsaw, so yeah, and
Yeah.
the Sharknado's coming outside, and at one point, her Stretch and Gunner come outside, and they each have like chainsaw, and they're like ready for action. They cut away, but she does. It looks like she lifts it up, and like on the day, she probably filmed a dance, but like they cut it out. But anyway, it's just neat that this movie's Leatherface and that movie's Stretch show up in
Yeah.
Texas in Sharknado 4.
Maybe I'll get there.
Now, yeah, I'm surprised for a movie that I like so much. I can't really justify why I like it. I just fucking do, and I get why everyone doesn't. Tone. It's silly, and it
Yeah.
it kind of doesn't make sense. Um,
No. Oh yeah, absolutely
it
not.
does.
No.
Yeah, it's not a logical follow up, and I know one of the intentions was that like the producer, I forget his name, but he was the producer at Twisted Pictures. He produced all the Saw movies. Was
Mm.
like that as a franchise. The same problem I have is that there's no consistent through line. It's just kind of a mess. So I'm going to
Sure.
start over. Here's a direct sequel, and we're going to keep going and try to create a consistent franchise. And I'll never forget this interview he gave. I think it was like Entertainment Weekly. How like he went in because Lionsgate had the rights, and he came in with the box set of Saw, and he was like, "I can make this great. You know what I can do to this franchise?" And he like put the box set down. He's like, "I can do this. Like I can make this like a 6-film series. Like I know how you can keep this as a viable new franchise." And then
Mm.
like they're like, "Great," and they signed a 6-picture deal. And one of the things that bummed me out is the way this movie ends. I'm so ready for more. And not only did we not get a 6-picture deal, but we went backwards to a prequel. I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to go back. And the series has already had a prequel. I know that this is your new continuity, and it's the continuity I prefer anyway, but still, like,
Yeah.
don't go back. Go forward. Give me Heather, give me more. And I hate,
Exactly.
and usually when you do the prequel, it usually kills it because then you go forward because audiences were just there in the past. Texas Chainsaw Beginning did not allow for just don't fucking. And then they did it, and it pissed me off because
Yeah.
it's to me now. You set this up where I'm like Dan Yeager's Leatherface and Heather. This feels like a franchise now,
Yeah.
and a franchise
Yeah.
I want to watch, especially
Exactly.
if you're going to turn it into like a anti-hero pro Sawyer thing, like you won me over, even though logistically it shouldn't.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. You have the opportunity to start dealing with the fact that like they're, committing atrocities together. And even though the Saw is family and we're watching this bond develop that we're not against, what it's being built on needs to be dealt with at some point. It has to back up on them at some point. The way you can deal with that, cheesy or not, because that's one thing. I would never tell people like, oh, it's such a good movie. I would never tell
No.
people it's a bad movie. It's like I said, it's mindless but it's not heartless,
Correct.
and that is enough.
And
That is
to me, it
enough to
packs a
hook me.
wallop of an ending.
Yes.
I,
So
I honestly, the last 5 minutes of that movie are so fucking great with the voiceover and the reading of the note and then bringing him to dinner.
yeah,
And for the most part, it has pretty good chases. And I said I like the kills. I will always laugh at the fact that it's like a 1, 2, 3 punch of nonsense for me. Leatherface, let me run out of the house, and she immediately just like fumbles over all the steps, and I'm like, oof. And then she
oh
runs to the
god,
graveyard, and there's like a fence that's like a foot high, and for no
yeah, and
reason,
she
she's like,
tries to jump
whoa.
over and she bails. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely bails.
And then out of everywhere to hide, it's like the coffin. The coffin?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
oh, it's so dumb. I love it. I love it. Also, I've never I maybe you if you remember, tell me. I could have sworn when the gang's first exploring outside, Vera's grave has like fresh dirt on it, but it's not open with the casket.
Verna's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Verna's
could have
grave has fresh dirt on it. Yeah.
right. But then later, she goes in the house and you see Verna's upstairs. You're like, why is she up here? Is this a fucking Norman Bates thing? Like, I want to know, why is she up here? Because my first thought was like, did they fucking leave her up there? Is this in her note that like, no, but my body needs to be up in the house. That's what Leatherface would want. And then when we go out to the graveyard later, Verna's grave is open and the casket's open. And I'm like, did Leatherface leave, dig her up, bring her and put her upstairs? Was she already upstairs and I just didn't notice the grave earlier? But there's something to the fact that like the casket's open and her body's in the house, and that's just fucked up.
Yeah.
Just fucked up. So yeah.
So wait, that wasn't a question. I was like,
No, the
wait, well, so
question
what's your
is, do
question?
you
Okay.
remember if it was a fresh mound of dirt or was it open when they were first touring?
I believe when they were first touring that it was a fresh mound of dirt, but I could be
That's what I thought.
misremembering. That's what I thought too. So she got dug in. But there was also, I mean, because nothing made sense, I was just like, maybe it's not Verna.
Well, I don't know, man. I dig the vibe a lot, and also like this is gonna sound weird because I don't want to find out I'm related to monsters. But if it was like, hey, you've just inherited this big great house, and then
Yeah.
cool, and immediately we start playing pool and drinking. I'm like, this all sounds like a good time. Yeah, friend, I barely know. Get in the kitchen and make me some stuff. And then like, oh, the horrors, but like, oh, I get a Leatherface. Yeah, I'll feed you. All right, cool, man. No one's gonna fuck with me. I have a Leatherface in my basement. I don't know.
I don't know what would have to happen for me
Oh,
because flight
I mean,
response.
I say that, but like, come on, I don't want a fucking Leatherface in my basement. But
Yeah, when you say like, because I've
I
got a
want to inherit
Leatherface,
that
it's like
house though.
no.
I want to inherit
No,
that
when I saw the
house.
house, I was just kind of like, I remember thinking it in the theater too, just thinking like that would be awesome. And it happened again. I was just kind of like, it must be nice. I mean, especially like
Oh,
it's fully furnished and all that silver that what's his name tries to steal and everything. I'm
yeah,
just like, yeah, that's pretty sweet.
yeah.
Just don't invite strangers into the home anymore. God.
It also it's funny. It's the only I don't I felt feelings when he shows the lawyer shows her the entry code for the gate at 0819. He's like, it's best to think of it as a date, and I'm like, oh, because that's like the next day. That's like the morning. That's like the morning that they were all killed. Like
Hmm.
Verna lost her whole family that day.
Yeah.
Like we always associate like August 18th. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the day all the murder happens, but like the next day
At
is
the 19th. Yeah.
yeah. And I just went, oh, here's so. Anyway, I don't have anything deep to say. I just really like the movie.
Yeah.
Here's what's weird to me because we're gonna move into Leatherface now, your favorite
Yeah.
movie of 2017. What's weird to me is that I don't know how many of the same producers stayed on, but I understood some of them, like it was some of the same producers. Um,
Yeah.
Her lawyer refers to Verna as a really sweet lady, salt of the earth. The very next movie shows Verna. Opening scene is, here, little Jedediah, take this chainsaw and murder this man because I think he was on my property stealing cabbage or something. That's not a nice lady. That's not salt of the earth,
Those are pigs. Wasn't it her pigs?
I guess.
Yeah.
And then the very
Stealing
next thing is
cabbage. Like Peter Rabbit.
no, and then also Drayton. I think it was Drayton and Nubbins, but like the Stephen Dorff's daughter gets killed simply for
Yeah.
kind of wandering on their property. Like this is a terrible, shitty family. So it's really weird that they, within the same franchise, specifically the same new continuity franchise, you have us go about face to rooting for the Sawyers to immediately about facing again and making me hate them and that they're monsters. It's
Uh,
so I know, like, bad on you, Leatherface 2017, because it's too much tonal whiplash between I already had a whiplash that I went on board with. You can't do this to me again.
I'll go one more on that.
Oh, that's
Because
right. But before you, one more, because I don't believe that this Lily Taylor Verna
yeah.
grows up to be
No.
that Marilyn Burns Verna.
Well, okay, this is the whole thing with this movie. Like here we can talk about like tonal inconsistencies and logical, story thread, like inconsistencies from movie to movie. But within this movie, in and of itself, I feel like there is, it's this isn't nice to say, but I feel like it's not cohesive at all. I feel like there's no vision. Ultimately, I feel like it's just a bunch of shit thrown together. I mean, and that's how I feel when I watch it. I'm just kind of like, why am I watching this? This has absolutely no reason for me knowing about it. The new characters who are introduced are of absolutely no consequence, aside from maybe one for the twist, the mistaken identity, who we all assume Leatherface, is going to grow up to be Leatherface, and then who ultimately gets revealed is the actual Leatherface. And I'm just kind of like, I don't care. And I there's this is the thing, because I saw this once like 3 years ago, and I hated it. And I knew, okay, I'm probably never going to watch it again. And then we were doing this, so I'm like, okay, I'll watch it again. So I watched it. It's really, really sad how much I forgot about this movie, because there's plenty that happens that should be memorable. Like I started writing the sex scene in the trailer on the corpse. That seems pretty memorable, but I didn't care about anything that led into it, and I don't care about anything that follows. So it's like there's no point in remembering it. It's just gross. Good for them.
Yeah, didn't it also just feel like we're doing gross and fucked up for gross and fucked up sake? Like, I don't,
for two characters who I don't care about. I don't know who you are. Why are we on this, on the lam out running? This is not.
Well, I'm fine with that, just because I was okay with the general idea of the story, just because it's not four people in a van in some sort of prequel story giving me the same thing again. You didn't give me the same thing. It's just that what you're giving me isn't very well constructed.
I don't like it.
And then here's the thing. So I felt that way for about the first half.
Okay.
And then about halfway through, that's when I was like, all right, but what is it? Like, I was on board with, like, you give me something different and telling me an origin, but this isn't much. And I'm just, why is that? Like, you have to give me the why I'm supposed to be watching this.
Yeah.
Through the movie, it really lost me. I was giving it a chance because I respect going somewhere different, but it wasn't. But it wasn't somewhere worthwhile.
This is the thing. I think I mentioned this before. The second I start I think I mentioned this with Freaky. The second I start rewriting the script in my own head while the movie is in progress, and it happens really soon with this one. Like you mentioned, the opening scene with them being terrible people and handing him a chainsaw and making him do it. He's all timid and can't and whatever because he's too sensitive or something. And I'm just like, okay, number one, from the get-go, you've lost me because I don't agree with this. And it's not even necessarily for the reasons you brought up. It's also just because I don't find anything particularly scary of seeing Verna kind of like at 100
Yeah.
at the top. Like, okay, we're full on cannibals and killers, and that's who we are, and that's what we do. Like when you have the opportunity, I always felt like by the time we reached the events of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, things had simultaneously escalated
Mhm.
and just completely decomposed and fallen apart. I need to
Whereas this
see.
is like, no, this is the way it's always been because we're
No,
gonna.
and yeah, and I don't, there's nothing scary to me about that. What's scarier to me is thinking probably more in a Grey Gardens vein, like was because I mean they mentioned that she had money in this new,
Right.
timeline
And then
that
this
Texas
one, you
Chainsaw
find out
3D
she
did.
marries into money.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, so and even the names, it's like, okay, so he's still Leatherface is not now Jojo, he's Jed
No,
still.
it's very much the same producers, same continuity.
Exactly.
She
And
even
and
has the
she's
same lawyer.
Verna. Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, I aside from everything you brought up about the lack of continuity between the two of them, the movie in and of itself, I'm just like, this isn't scary. I feel like even if he were troubled, or if all of her boys were troubled, if there was like some kind of like mental thing on either side, on her side or on her husband's side, their father's side, whatever, I feel like if she's going to be this matriarch, I feel like Denial, which we already crossed with Luda May, who I don't find scary, but I feel like Denial of your sons losing their minds is scarier than, yeah, that's right. Go on, boys. Show
Mhm.
them how to do. There's no, so I don't like that. I wrote the fact that Jed was raised and encouraged to be this way is far less scary to me than something that just got out of control. Um, and then the next scene, like the fact that the young people are driving through, they almost hit God knows what, and then when it stands up, it's a kid wearing a cow's head, and the
It-
girl wants to go to him.
I
Who?
do not agree with that scene. Eddie, if we were on the driving and I got out of the car and this little cow got up and it was a little yokel boy wearing a cow's head, I'm getting back in the car.
Out of there,
And then
out of
he,
there.
or if he leaves, the thought that I don't have is I'm going to go after that yokel boy with the cow on his head. I'm going to leave. So it immediately doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Um, I think she has the line, "It's just a kid," and I'm like, wearing a cow's head.
Yeah, no, he'll be.
Jesus.
Yeah, at that point, it's not just a kid.
Yeah. Kim Henkel and Toby Hooper were on as producers again. Um, oh, there was an interesting quote that I wrote down. There were a bunch of lines in this. Well, not a bunch, handful of lines that I wrote down just because I was like, okay, there's a way to build. I feel like these lines were written before the scenes were, and they tried to kind of build scenes that would connect these lines to be said or something. But you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. Isn't that Lizzie the nurse says that? And that felt very kind of close to like a conflict that Leatherface might have internally or something, but it had almost no significance to this origin story. Okay, that one mouse that the girl that
Oh, yeah.
that the sick girl is trying to get into the poor girl's mouth.
Yeah.
It's bald. Why?
Who cares?
No, but I'm just like, there's a. First of all, you're shoving a mouse. I felt like again, thing like that should be memorable. Someone forcing a mouse inside somebody else's mouth, but there's no path there, and then there's nothing. We don't even know who that girl is. She leave, and then
Nope.
the story takes off, and the thing everybody break out, and I can't. I wrote Bud got a decent kill with Dr. Lang. Who's Bud? I don't even remember who Bud is.
Is he the Max Landis looking kid?
Maybe. Did he get killed? Oh no, he killed. No. Bud is the guy who we're supposed to think
Oh yeah.
is Leatherface, and he kills Dr. Lang in the. He like puts him on the broken shards of glass window
Yeah.
and everything. And I was like, okay, interesting practical effect, cool.
Actually, this movie,
Um,
here's one of the strengths. It has really good practical effects.
yeah, it does.
Stephen Dorff getting chainsawed, like a lot of the practical kills are really cool looking and gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Jed's line when he's sitting there. We don't know he's Jed yet. He's Jackson. But when he's sitting there with the nurse, and he just says in the diner, and he just says, "I just wish this was normal." And then later he says, "I wish I was somebody else." And I'm like, okay, these are all like internal lines that I believe would be inside Leatherface's head, but especially knowing the spoiler, knowing that he's Leatherface, I'm like, okay, I understand him saying that. I can see what you're trying to do. You needed a revisions. You needed another writer. I don't know how many people wrote this either. Like, do we know? Like, did the director write it, or did it go past too many hands?
I've never cared enough to like look that up in the way that like Texas. Oh, by the way, Texas Chainsaw 3D. I think one of the reasons why it's 2012 doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
One of the writers was the guy who wrote Jason X, and I think at one point he said that the script was set in the 90s when he wrote it. And then I think there was just like another. They're like, "Whoa, well, we're gonna rewrite it, but we're gonna still leave out the cell phones." But yeah,
God.
it originally took place 20 years later, and then they updated it. Didn't update it. I've done that kind of research. I have not done that kind of research for Leatherface 2017.
No,
I can't tell you who wrote what. It's not a movie that feels like a passion. I mean, I know it's a business, but usually the trick with any project is you get some people who are interested in it to make something. And there's no passion in this at all.
No. I love that in record time they managed to crawl inside and out of a cow when they're hiding from the cops.
Eddie, not just in record time, all three of them fit in one cow. 3 of them.
And one of them is
like a fucking clown car.
Yeah. No, and again, like that's something that should be memorable when you hide inside. I mean, people make Empire Strikes Back jokes all the time about being inside a tauntaun, but I've completely forgot that happened. Like some of the most gross, gory shit that happened in this movie. Interesting practical effects, but I didn't remember any of them. I wouldn't remember them now if I hadn't taken notes. And but I also wrote, like I skipped way ahead, but when Verna is sewing Judd's face back together, I mean, that is close up like practical effects. It looks like flesh, and I'm just like, okay, thumbs up for that. But then later when Elizabeth is trying to break out of the house, I'm so checked out by this point, but she decides to take Stephen Dorff with her. Really, after everything he's done and shot at you. I mean, I guess she's a good person, but it doesn't pointless. And then I wrote 1 hour and 17 minutes in before we get to something that interests me even remotely. And that's just watching Sam Strike, the actor who plays Jed. His physicality as Leatherface when he's moving about with the chainsaw and everything like that is like the only thing where I'm watching and I'm just kind of like, this feels vaguely Texas Chainsaw Massacre to me.
I had the similar reaction when I saw it.
Yeah, like from the house and then to chasing her and then being out in the woods and then choosing to saw her when she talks about his mother that way and everything. I'm just like you were saying with the Punisher, when we get to him at the end, like sewing the face together and everything like that, even just like the shot, like starting to move behind him and everything like that. I'm like, this is your movie. The movie did not need all of these.
Yeah,
it didn't need all these action turns and all of these like moving him about and switched identity and everything like that. He's interesting enough. All we needed to do was to watch him lose his mind or lose his grasp, or did he have it? But we need to watch him progress from some something into something else to the point where we believe he can become the man who would be Leatherface, and
Yeah.
it really didn't need to be
I mean, I know.
this waste of time.
Yeah, I don't know about the writers, but I remember reading. I think I read one or two articles when this came out.
Hmm.
Actually, before I go into that, I saw this in theaters because I
Hmm.
love Texas Chainsaw 3D so much, and this had a very limited release. Even though it
Hmm.
was Lionsgate, like it wasn't playing like in an AMC or Centuries. It was like I think it was called like GVC.
Hmm.
It's like a smaller. It's like a Korean-owned chain, I think. And there's like one in Anaheim,
Hmm.
and it was like they're playing Leatherface, something else, and then like 5 Korean movies. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I actually really like the theater. There was one other person in the theater at like a 3 o'clock on like a Friday or something.
Hmm.
That movie bombed because it was released nowhere.
Yeah.
But once she started showing his face, and then I think Nurse Lady, was it Sarah, leaves the house
Lizzie.
for all of a sudden it's so shallow. I wouldn't say I liked the movie, but it was a girl running from a Sawyer with a chainsaw in the woods, and I went, "Oh, this finally feels like a Texas Chainsaw movie."
Exactly.
It's just dressings. It's not anything story wise, but I feel like I'm watching a Texas Chainsaw movie finally.
Right. Right.
So cool.
Yeah.
Um, no, I remember reading some interview with either a producer or a writer on it, and they talked about like instead of just doing the obvious sequel of like here's Leatherface, obvious, they were saying that like we thought like what would be interesting to us is like what if he wasn't always that way? So what would it take to take someone normal ish because he already has mental problems and he's I guess
Yeah.
what would it take to turn someone into that? What if he wasn't the obvious thing, and what if it was like a twist? And I'm like, yeah, it's not really that's not nearly as interesting as you think it is.
Yeah.
um,
It's a good challenge as a writer, but that doesn't mean you need to make that movie.
right. Um, and sometimes those challenges, weird comparison, but I remember the Lord and Miller when they were doing Lego Movie 2. One of the
Oh yeah.
reasons they said we want to write Lego Movie 2 is like we know the twist from Lego Movie 1. Now that you know the twist, like how do you make a sequel? Well, that's a challenge. How do you write a sequel? And so that was why they kept writing a second one. It was like
Right. Right.
that's a challenge to make something worth your while.
Sure.
Um, and sometimes that challenge can yield something good. Not yield, but it'll produce something good, and sometimes it won't.
Hmm.
My problem with because I mean, don't judge me too harshly for saying anything positive, but there's a lot of good composition in this movie within the scenes, as far as setups,
Yeah.
framing, lighting. Uh, it's they have a team of people who clearly know how to shoot it. It's whether it's storyboarding or just good producers. Um, Once again, I feel like these people don't. I don't believe that they're in the 60s or 50s.
Right.
Uh, the fashion, and I mean people had buzzed hair, but that he's got really piercing blue eyes, but he looks like blue-eyed Max Landis to me. His mouth and his jaw, just going, he looks like Max Landis. Go away. Um,
Ike.
I guess. Yeah. I
Yeah, the
mean,
guy, the
like,
shitty guy,
yeah, the shitty
the
guy.
shitty guy. Yeah.
Um, yeah, pretty much once they once they get to that trailer, and we're just there, and Brad, Steve Gordon, like they're just like that's when it really like because I was on board to be like, well, where are you gonna go? I love they're
Mm.
giving me something different. Where are we gonna go? And it turns out we don't really go anywhere. Too much time is spent not doing anything worthwhile. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
The other thing that
Yeah.
frustrated me was I was very confused as to why they thought this was going to be a twist because they introduced, was it Bub? Let's say
Bud.
Bud. They introduced Bud. They introduced Jackson. They introduced Ike.
Hmm.
And then like another scene or two later, we spend time with Jackson. We spend time with Jackson. And then there's like a scene with Bud.
Yeah.
And then we spent a lot of time with Jackson and a lot of time with Jackson. And then we all go on the run. And even though we're on the run, we're spending a lot of time with Jackson and Ike, and Jackson and Ike and the nurse, and Jackson and the nurse. That I never, like after the first or second scene, I never believed that Bud was Leatherface because we're spending too much time with Jackson for him to be a supporting character, for him to be Leatherface's friend who then maybe gets lost on the journey or something. We're spending so much time with him that for a movie called Leatherface, if Bud's Leatherface, he's not, because you're not committing any time to him.
Yeah.
So the twist is this guy's Leatherface, right? We already established that these aren't their names, so there's going to be a reveal. So when they actually reveal it, I'm like, well, yeah, because you treated him like Leatherface the whole time. If you want there to be a twist, you have to trick me,
Yeah.
and you never tricked me.
Mm.
You can't make a movie called Leatherface and spend all this time on Jackson and then try to make me feel surprised. You fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say the only kind of positive takeaway aside from like, I mean, I like, toward the end, I start to like the energy. And even though, I mean, it makes me uncomfortable. And that's why I like it, because this slow zoom on the back of his head as I know what he's sewing and everything in like a very deep kind of burnt orange light. Ugh. I mean, everything about it, I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable. Good. I should be. I'm watching I'm watching Leatherface's origin story. But again, after the beginning, but um the other thing you calling him blue-eyed Max Landis. The thing about Ike, played by James Blore, his performance was another one that I was really impressed with, though, because yeah, on paper, total one-note character. I'm the asshole character, and I'm the one who's trying to control everything, and I'm the toxic male and everything. But the thing is, like, something about like what was going on behind his eyes, there was an absence there that really disturbed me too, because I did feel like I was watching a man who was capable, or a young man who was capable of anything. I didn't like the way the character was written, but given what he was supposed to do, I thought James Blore did a really, really good job executing it. And Sam Strike, same thing. Like I mean, he elevated the material in the isolated moments from scene to scene. Like, I thought, okay, you're connected to something. It's fine. I like it, but Desi's snoring scared me.
I can't hear it.
I just hear. I'll talk about that in a second, because but anyway, where are you? I keep hearing, but anyway, oh, but the movie fails him, Sam Strike. The like, yes, isolated moments, you're doing good work and everything, but there's absolutely no comprehensive arc that I care to follow, that I feel was provided for me to follow. And no help. Like, the writers did you no favors, the editors did you no favors, except for, things start to pick up towards the end. And that's about it.
Well, that interview with the producer or writer is extra frustrating, because in trying to find what would cause someone to be who wasn't a child, a fearful child of Drayton, like, to become that. To have someone be so lucid and then become trapped in that. That's if that is the question that you want to answer. One, I think that's a longer journey if you're going to start off as Jackson and end up as that Leatherface.
Yeah.
It's a longer journey than what this movie's going to do. But two, I don't think, because it happens so quick, I don't think already being off your meds for a couple days, because they established that he's medicated there and he's not on them now.
Yeah.
Not being off your meds for 2 days, seeing the nurse that you've hung out with for 2 days try to leave, and then freaked the fuck out that she was gonna leave you, and then getting shot in the face would instantly turn you to like, well, you go home to Verna and she sews your face and now you're Leatherface. Like, I don't. That's
No,
not. That's not a good answer to the question that you're posing.
no, it is not.
And I'm, like I'm reminded of my initial disappointment with Revenge of the Sith, because I always
Mm,
imagined that Anakin's turn to Vader was going to be a gradual series of events that really
yes.
molded him as a man and molded him into Vader. And it
Yeah.
turned out that the Revenge of the Sith answer was far simpler, which was like, it's a Faustian choice, and he falls very
Right.
quickly down this rabbit hole. As I got older, I learned to appreciate, no, but it is kind of a classic Faust thing, and I actually kind of like the idea of like, no, 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 I've manipulated you into being afraid that your wife is going to die. So here's a choice. There's a line in the sand. You have to make it now. There's literally a lightsaber pointed at my fucking head. You have to make the choice now, and like that's a choice. I'm okay
Mhm.
with Vader's choice being so instant. So I'm okay with stories having something so big and drastic happen quickly. I'm not against it.
Mhm.
But getting shot through the cheek when you're sad your nurse was gonna try to leave, and I know you're maybe sad that Bud died, and I know that you're not on your meds. None of that adds up to Leatherface. It doesn't
Also,
add up to it, and it doesn't necessarily add up to that. I like that last scene with him sewing on its own, but I don't
yeah,
see how he got to that scene from
no,
the rest of
no,
this movie.
no. Um, Also, giving him some kind of disfigurement or something like that as a reason for like wearing the mask just feels like in Phantom of the Opera movies where they throw acid on his face because he couldn't be born deformed.
Yeah,
It's like just one, and because now he's had acid thrown on his face. He always had a temper, but now he's been pushed over the edge and he's
right.
capable of murder. It's like,
Yeah,
no, no,
I,
it
I,
doesn't work that way.
he's not. If I mean, I won't call it disfigurement, but like he had some crooked teeth. That like underneath that mask was a guy,
Yeah.
except for the fucking reboot.
Yeah.
Where
The
he's,
leprosy thing. Yeah.
yeah, no, 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 no. I don't need
No,
him to be scarred under that. I don't like that.
me
The
neither.
only thing that it earns is I remember going, this guy's got really nice teeth. I wonder what happens. And then after he gets shot, like I notice his teeth are a little more fucked up. I go, oh, okay, well at least he fucked up his teeth. Good. Okay.
You know what would have freaked me out so much more is just show me a sweet little boy who's going to school and then show me some strange things he does, like here and there.
Sure.
That would definitely raise an eyebrow, but maybe the same person isn't seeing this. Like one person saw that thing, one person saw that thing. And so there's no one to really kind of like accumulate all these strange things that he's doing. And then does he have an influence or does it, I mean, there could have been, it takes like a modest amount of research
Yes.
into, well, like not from a writing standpoint, like, well, what would be, the most unexpected, interesting like thing to make him, it'd be more interesting to be like, well, what would his life really be
Right.
like what
And that's
Mike Nichols always asked when he was directing a movie, and he's done some stinkers too. I just watched Wolf, but his question when he was directing it, actually not just a movie but anything, was he'd look at the script and go, okay, what is this about? What is this like really?
mhm.
And that's the movie I'm going to make. I want to make a movie about what is this really like, and the script can, or the style can like elevate this and that. We'll figure it out, but I just want to know at the core what is, and trying to wow us with a twist and trying to like go like, hey, ha, 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 gotcha.
and and
And
and
yeah,
also
I don't like it.
um I have, if we're, again, if this is considered the prequel to the actual Texas Chainsaw, so that you have this
Mm-hmm.
little trilogy of Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw, and then Texas Chainsaw 3D, um, I also don't see how this family becomes that family. One of the problems I have, there's twofold, but one of the problems I have, um, and I don't know if I'm 100% correct in feeling this. I'm still not, my feelings aren't solidified yet, but I kind of don't like that it's Verna that's like the matriarch that's like making this sort of thing go on. The impression I always got, at least when I see the Sawyers in the original Texas Chainsaw, is the lack of a mother.
Yeah.
When you have like the boys club, this always felt like something that was a kind of a product of, not entirely the product of, but the absence of feminine or matriarchal influence when these not when all men are left alone, but when these type of men are left alone,
Mm-hmm.
this becomes that. And they've
Yeah.
established in one that there was a grandma,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe there wasn't necessarily the mom from the next one down. These three boys' mother is gone.
Yeah.
Um, and even in two, like, so we've established in two movies there is a grandma, but maybe she hasn't been around long enough anymore. So to now create one of the sources of this family being now the maternal influence
Mm-hmm.
doesn't jive with me based on
No.
what was happening. Not to say that you can't, and I'm not. It's weird because I'm usually all for female representation in things,
Yeah.
but like in this case, like no, I don't like that it's Verna who's kind of responsible for this. And my second problem is that they're they feel too far gone in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Yeah.
Like Drayton puts on a good social front. Like you could pull over to his gas station and
Yeah.
believe that he's kind of normal, a little strange.
Yeah.
Verna's too lucid. She's too aware of like, well, they fucked with our family. Like
Yeah.
it's too personal. It's too
Super
aggressive.
abrupt. Yeah.
It's not. It needs to be unreasonable. I feel like in a weird way, you could almost try to talk yourself out of it with her, and you could have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
Whereas you couldn't have a conversation with Drayton and Nubbins and Leatherface.
Yeah. Also, how could she live that life and attract a wealthy husband? I don't understand
Right?
in that
Well,
period.
and clearly they just don't show it. So
Yeah. It's just a footnote. It's like,
yeah.
oh, she has to be wealthy
And,
though.
and going this
It's like,
direction now contradicts your own movie where like the lawyer's like she was real salt of the earth,
yeah.
sweet woman. Like the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, what if she was, and what if she didn't have the heart to see this? You and I could have like
Yeah.
come up with such a better script because I'm just thinking like, okay, what if she was a salt of the earth kind of woman, but she wasn't like the strongest? Like, what if she
And
didn't
she
know
couldn't
how to help
rein
them?
this
And
in.
yeah,
And it
and at the same time,
snowballs.
she couldn't put them in like a facility to like,
She
so
couldn't
she just
afford
thought, I'll
to.
just put them, now I have money, so I'll just put them out like, in the middle of nowhere where they won't hurt anybody. They'll just be isolated and they'll be fine. If they do anything, maybe nobody will find out about it. I mean, like,
Right.
what if that's again like denial? So much scarier than, come on, boys, show me
Right.
what I mean to you, kind of. And it's
I
like,
almost
shut up.
I almost think that she could have been the one who like helped pay for the gas station and the barbecue, but then that to me
Right.
contradicts. But then I also in with Drayton in part two, I want Drayton to be an entrepreneur. I want him to, you know,
Yeah, that's true. Well,
it
maybe.
works both ways. Maybe he loses it and now he's become such a good chili cook that
Uh-huh.
now he can afford like he's learned enough, he's moved enough on his own that now I've got my little food truck.
Maybe it's also a matter. Maybe they left in such a hurry that like, and they can't go back and like see her, because what if they get traced back to her and everything like that? So they're just not in contact. They're just kind of like running scared right now, just trying to make some sense.
Right.
Like,
Because
oh, we got a
if we
business,
fuck
we
up, we
can kill
ruin
people,
the
we can
money
do this.
source.
Yeah, right. And maybe she's just. There are so many things. Like we could like have literally an entire just like rap session over, like,
Verna.
yeah.
Because that's the other thing that makes it even between the two movies, even though they don't totally sync up. But this idea that she marries money, but she's not at the house in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, um, and you see that she's got this huge house somewhere else. She married the Carson, one of the Carsons. The impression I also get is that at some point, I don't want to say she shuns them, cuts them off, but she's not living with them. She marries Carson. She, like it isn't like a nice blended family or that the Carson kind of joins them. It's she joins the Carson estate, and I have these relatives over here.
Right.
She is separate. She is now living rich, and her kids are living with her, whatever the fuck. And then it's not until they die and that they're all gone that she feels some sort of guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and at least follows and keeps track of the one that got away. And
Yeah,
but again,
you're right. They should have just gone forward.
they
Should
should
have
have gone
just.
forward. They should never even made this movie. They should have gone forward.
Yeah. Oh, I concur.
There's so much to mine. There's so much to mine from it. Before we get to the lists,
Yeah.
I just want one
breakdowns,
last
right?
thing to say about this movie and sort of the saga is I found it interesting, and they don't do it so much in the beginning, but I was very aware of it when I watched the third movie. So the first movie and the second movie were taking place in Texas. I don't want to call them full blown yokels, but they are, but they are
Oh,
not in the city. They're not
hmm,
city folk.
yeah.
Um, the third movie is the first time where I really felt, I
Hmm.
forget, the two main characters are from California, and they're
Yes.
going to Florida, and then
Yeah.
she's either going to New York or England. But I became very aware of the coastals versus, or city folk versus
Hmm.
the South of hillbillies
I was just going to say the hillbilly vibe is real. It's
in
palpable in the third
three.
one. Yeah.
No, but specifically the fact that when she shoots, I have to keep looking at it, Alfredo, she calls him like a hillbilly or a yoke. She calls him something like that when she shoots him.
Hmm.
I became very aware that like in this movie, it's one thing in one and two where like the big open space and the lack of connectivity makes it scary. The third movie demonizes Southern people to a certain degree, or people
Hmm.
who live in such rural, distant
Right.
areas. Um, and even four, it's so weird because like they go to a high school, and I even find it interesting. Little communities I've been to, in Washington and like through Arizona, um, New Mexico, where you'll see like everything. We're in Southern California, everything's so close together. In New York, everything's so close together. In Chicago, everything's so
Yeah.
close together. Whereas you'll go to like a high school and then you'll drive several miles and then you hit residential area, and then we're gonna go to a party at this guy's house. It's 5 miles through the woods, and then you turn down the street, and then you find like this really nice house, but you go down long dirt roads to get places and shit. um so even those kind of cities, not necessarily southern, but just like the distant. So Texas Chainsaw 4 is still like we're in a school, but like we go down a few streets, we run the stop sign, we turn down here, and now where the fuck are we? Like that sort of structure still exists as
Right.
far as civilization versus quote unquote not civilization. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I say quote unquote because I'm not denigrating people who live that way.
Right.
But you start really getting into it again with the Texas Chainsaw, the two, especially the begin. I think it's the beginning when like they set up that like the town is closing, and Lord
Yeah.
knows we've seen, if that's a theme of anything in those two movies, it's that. Especially if you've recently watched Nomadland, and the statistic of like how many dead cities there are in the U.S.
Mm.
I've always wanted to go to the Salton Sea because like there's so much just like old, empty, dilapidated buildings, and like this, I just always wanted to visit it. And there's and little cities where like we had like one or two industries going. Times have changed. And there's like tons of empty houses, like families, everyone just up and left.
Mm.
And the Texas Chainsaw, like those movies kind of reflect that, and how like the Hewitts are adapting to like, yeah, like the last cop is about to leave. We're like the only idiots staying in this town. They never flat like we can't go to the store anymore. They don't flat out say like this is why we eat people, but like this is where they're getting their meat from, is the people who drive through their town now.
Mm.
Um, so there's always been an interesting thing about where they either uplift or demonize the South. And then with Texas Chainsaw 3D, they really go into like, well, we're lifting up the Sawyers, but at the same time, we're demonizing these like militia, like ultra hillbillies. The
Hmm.
Sawyers, yeah, they're murderers, but they're just regular hillbillies. We're gonna demonize the like militia hillbillies. And then immediately in the next movie, we're gonna like poo poo. Like they go from good to bad. The franchise as a whole, it's constantly this sort of up and down. I
Mm.
just wrote as a note the word Southern with an up arrow and a down arrow, and it's just fun to see where this series is gonna, how they're gonna treat their Texans.
I wonder
Are they
where
good?
the next movie's gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, are they the good guys? Are they the bad guys? Do we like them or do we look down on them? the series has never been consistent, and
No,
yeah,
no.
the next movie will be interesting because Fede Alvarez is producing it, and and that's I mean, I forget what else the director's done, but Fede is a producer, and
Okay.
there. I remember I found it so interesting when Texas Chainsaw 3D said, "Hey, we're going to skip 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the real part 2." Much like how Halloween H2O was like, you know what? Fuck your 4, 5, 6. I found it so interesting when 2018 Halloween's like, you know what? Fuck your H2O and Resurrection, and fuck your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This
Yeah,
is the
right.
real sequel to 1. I'm like, wow, plenty of franchises have pulled the Superman Returns. Like, you know what? Fuck 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Here's the sequel. Um,
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw has already done that. Halloween was the first time I realized that, like, oh, you're doing it again.
Yeah.
You're gonna redo, and now
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw, the next movie, is the real sequel to 2. That's skipping Texas Chainsaw 3D and Leatherface, but also skipping 2, 3, and 4. Here's the real sequel, and I can't wait
Right.
to see what they do with that now because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a mess, and I feel like it's been too long and no one's gonna care. You can't make a sequel to Texas Chainsaw 3D now. I don't feel like there's like an
No.
in for the audience to just jump
Yeah,
in.
I know.
At this point, you just kind of have to just keep sequelizing the first one, I guess. Even though that's kind of what 3 did. They never say it because it's called 3, but 3
Mm-hmm.
totally ignores 2.
Yeah.
So this is technically, I guess, the third time they'll be doing that.
That's a record.
I think it is. So there you go.
Still looking forward to this upcoming one, though. I
Me
don't.
too.
All I know is Sally Hardesty coming back, and and it's not going to be Marilyn Burns, which is sad, but um, it's like, but it can't be, and it's
Right.
like, okay, well, we haven't done this yet, and all right, shrug. I don't. Let me see what it is. Like it's a crapshoot at this point. Like, is
I'm
the arrow
hoping
going to go up or down?
I'm hoping that the pedigree of Fede Alvarez guiding it. I feel like he's a
Yeah,
smart
me
enough
too.
dude to give us something.
Not to attach his name to crap. Yeah,
Right. Um,
let's hope.
and also, not like it matters, but I read that Sarah Yarkin, they updated the cast list recently, but she's the in Happy Death Day 2, like the college people that are working on the device. She's the girl, like the curly
Oh,
haired, dark
okay.
haired girl. I like
Like
her.
her. Yeah, me
Put her
too.
in more stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Let's
here
do
we
it.
go. Nice. Take it.
Do you want to rank these fuckers?
Let's do it. My
Number
number
8.
8. Um, mine is it's gonna be the same title. Like over and over again. Mine is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning.
Oh,
I
I
hate it that much.
wow. I'm calling it now. I think our bottom 3 will be like the same kind of scrambled movies, and then like I think 4 through 1 are going to be pretty much the same.
I had a feeling. I wondered. Yeah. What's your 8?
Because my 8 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake. I don't
Okay.
like it that much, more so than the beginning in Leatherface. Like, and I know
Right.
Leatherface is great, but yeah, it's just a big lump of nothing to me.
Oh, and this is a good time for me to say, because you watch these chronologically,
Oh yeah,
which,
almost.
oh my, that's like signing a death warrant for
Well,
myself. I couldn't do it.
you watch them
Yeah.
in order of reverse favorite, so you build towards you have
Yeah, I
a journey.
watched them in like an anticipated ranking, and I didn't want to tell you because I think you talked about like not watching my Instagram story because you didn't want to see my rankings then, and I was like, it's just an anticipated ranking, and
Okay.
the parenthetical that I didn't get to say was, and I already changed it. It's already
Okay.
changed because yeah because yeah, no, I didn't think the beginning was going to be at the bottom, and then when I watched it, just kill me.
That was
So
actually
yeah.
when I watched Texas Chainsaw, the fact that I didn't hate it, the 2003 remake, the way I used to hate it. I was like, oh, is it not going to be at my
Mhm.
bottom anymore? And then I watched the other shitty ones and I went, oh no, it's at the bottom.
My
Oh
7.
not
Oh
not
yeah,
7 yet. You watch them in your anticipatory order, not
yeah.
necessarily your ranked order, but just what you're looking forward
No.
to watching. What I did was because I wanted to also kind of chart, even though I've already kind of known what I thought the saga was. I still wanted to see where producers came in and did what to what and experience it. and also kind of go on the journey of 1 through 4. However, I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I did the remake and the prequel, but then I realized if I go up to a movie I like Texas Chainsaw, that means I'm going to end with
Right.
Leatherface.
Okay.
Okay, well, since at least these are both part of the same new continuity, let's flip it. I'm going to watch Leatherface so I can now enjoy myself and
Nice.
end
Yeah.
with Texas Chainsaw 3D. So that's
Yeah.
what I did.
Nice.
Number 7.
Number 7 is speak of the devil, Leatherface 2017.
Hey, me too.
Hey, I thought it was going to be my number 8, my bottom, but
I thought it was going to be my I thought it was going to be my number 6. Because I remember like just the idea of the beginning offended me so much.
Yeah.
And then I mean they're both not great, but you know.
But like I said, I mentioned like the performances were enough to not save it, but were enough for me to go like I can't do that with any of the performances in 8. I don't enjoy anything anybody. I enjoy performers, but I don't enjoy them in that movie. So it's just
and for that same thing for Leatherface being 7, I enjoy the last few minutes enough.
Right.
Where it still kind of feels like it text more than anything I experienced in the 2003 remake.
If I watch it again, I won't watch the whole movie. I'll just watch the last like 6 minutes.
Well, it's free on Peacock, so there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Number 6.
6 for me is Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Oh shit! Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. Wow, my number 6.
Yeah.
My number 6 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning.
Okay.
So our bottoms 3 aren't the same, but scrambled.
No, I couldn't confirm or deny. But no, it's just a matter of sitting through it and going like, I mean what I said when I was watching it, going like, this just doesn't need to exist. There's nothing about this that changes anything or brings anything new to the table that's important enough to build a movie around. So yeah, I was pretty bored.
It is when you look at the saga, it is rather perfunctory.
Yeah. But it's not as painful to get through as Leatherface or The Beginning for me.
I had 2 things where I had like neck and necks, and I'm not sure. Like I thought I had a ranking, and then I started to question my ranking.
Yeah.
And sure enough, one of them did switch, the other one didn't. But I did think that I'd have Texas Chainsaw: The Beginning lower. But again, the grass was green, and there were some pretty cool stabbings, and there's some pretty good bloodletting. And, Jordana Brewster did the best with what she was given, and it's always nice to see Matthew Bomer and stuff. So,
I love seeing him in stuff. Also, you know what? Oh, I didn't get to say this. I don't like his facial hair. It's totally superficial, but it grows in like moss growing on a tree or something. I'm just kind of like, it's all spotty, and I'm just like, just shave. No.
Mine's spotty too, though.
No, but no. Look at next time you watch that movie.
Oh, I actually did kind of stare at his.
Look at it's odd pattern. I mean, it's almost. I don't know. It's strange. I'm just like, okay, you shouldn't.
And there's one. I didn't say about that movie either that I mentioned. It has nothing to do with the actual intent of the movie or anything. I sometimes have a hard time watching elderly people get hit. I just don't like it. It really unsettles me sometimes. For obvious reasons, because even though it's fake movie stuff, but when he's got fucking Sheriff Hoyt just fucking whacking him on the deck of the house, there's such strong hits, and he's such an old man that, like, not necessarily for the movie because he's a bastard, but for me as a person looking at an old person getting hit, I didn't like it. And it's so violent that I remember thinking, there's got to be more of an effect. And then his teeth come out. I go, okay, at least, his teeth. But like, yeah, I don't like seeing Arlie Ermey's face get smashed in so much.
No, me neither. Also, I found out something about Arlie Ermey. Apparently, during the filming for that movie, for The Beginning, he lost his mother, so he had to leave the set, and they just shot around like what they needed him for. I guess until he came back and finished it off, which must have been very confusing to make a movie like this. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was good. I don't know, but it just made me sad. I was already depressed watching the beginning. So then when I read that on, I think it was on the wiki page for the movie, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm really sad. Like but now I'm just wondering, did he lose his mama yet? You know, never seen. So yeah, yeah. Number
Number
five.
five.
My number five is the 2003 remake.
Hmm. I'm not judging you for putting it so high. I'm not judging you at all. You you've said all the things that you like about it. My number
It's still not in
five.
the top. It didn't crack like the
Oh, it's
halfway
still in the
mark.
bottom
Like
half. Yes.
yeah.
My number five is Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Part 3.
Okay.
Not great. We already talked about
No,
it.
not great. No, and mine, like, I mean, you know how I feel. I mean, again, the progression, the thing, like, it's easy to follow. It's obviously not my favorite, but like,
No,
it's
it's not.
fine.
Yeah, to me, it's not great, but it's also not that bad. It's just it's a little perfunctory, a little flaccid, but it's all right.
Right.
Eh.
So for both of us,
It's
it's
not
like,
very creative in a franchise that
yeah.
other movies are creative, and its biggest downfall is how it doesn't take that many risks.
So like for each of us, our number fives are like serviceable for our needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Number four.
My number four is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation.
Same here. I'm guaranteed that our top four are going to be the same.
Yeah.
And I was just saying how how it didn't take any risks in a franchise that sometimes like four. Again, I'll never call it good, but I'll definitely say it's interesting. But what I'm going to get at here is that like it's a big swing. It's got some strange ideas. It took some risks. It
Yeah.
had the balls to be like, what if Illuminati? What if remote control A? In a way that three doesn't.
Yeah, and I find it super entertaining too. I mean, I've said that much. That's it. Number three,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Or Texas Chainsaw 3D.
original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's gonna be.
I didn't even. I was gonna like wait it out, and I was just kind of like, no, he's gonna get so mad. Oh, and I didn't want anybody to like hear that, and then their computer shut off, and they think that I would put the original in three. No, three is 3D. Yeah, totally. Or Texas Chainsaw. Don't. It's late. It's late. I'm scared. Don't. Did
Look
I
at how
tell
bright
you?
he is compared to the background.
Don't just put him away.
It's like when they're in the woods and Franklin's
I-
got the flashlight on him, and he's.
I've been afraid to sleep every night, and tonight's going to be no different because we've been talking about these movies. They're going to be in my head.
Good. That's what you get for psyching me out with number three.
If I have a nightmare tonight, I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you. Did I tell you the second noise that Leatherface makes? Because the first one is like in the original, but then the second one that he makes is something more of a like that, something like that. It sounds like Des when she's asleep sometimes, and I didn't realize it until I watched it today. I was just like, no, and Des, she was snoring earlier, but it didn't sound like that. It sounded different. I'm like, yeah, good. Snore like that from now on. Don't snore like please don't snore like Leatherface. You're gonna freak me out for a while.
God, I love
you know me. Shut up. Part two.
Number two
is my two. Yeah.
And then number one
is I mean, what are you gonna do? It's interesting that well, not four, but for top three have the numbers presumably like three is 3D, part two is 2,
and 4 is
the
4.
OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 is 1, and the fourth is 4. I didn't even think about that. Can't beat the original.
There are people out there, in the film circles and writers who prefer 2 to 1. I know someone personally who's like, I don't really care for 1 that much, but I really like 2 is my favorite. I don't always say this, but for this franchise, I go, I absolutely get it. I don't agree with you, but like, I absolutely get it.
I wouldn't shame anybody for making that decision.
1 isn't necessarily your flavor, but like you really dig what they're going for in 2, and like, man, like I not only wouldn't shame you, but I totally understand. In fact, I would, without assigning a grade or anything, but I'm gonna say a grade, like for what it is, I think Texas Chainsaw 1 is like an A. For
Mm,
what it is, Texas Chainsaw 2 is like an A minus. So like I really I
mm.
get if that's where your scene is. Like Texas Chainsaw 2 is a great version of what it is.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if the vibe just speaks more to you, then go for it. I mean,
And that's the only way I
I'm
can
not gonna shame you.
and that's why I rank them like 1 and 2, but like the grade is only off like an A to an A minus. Like I think 2 really succeeds as what it's going for. The only thing
Right.
that I was almost flippy floppy on, and then I was that going into this, I really thought that it was gonna be 4 for number 4, and then
Mm,
3 underneath. And then I'm watching 3 and still finding all these little nuggets of things, and then and whereas 4, the first time I saw 4, I was more like I was so entertained by it, but this time I allowed myself to be a little more critical of it that I thought they were gonna switch.
mm,
But in the end, though, no, I still put 4 above 3. Like that didn't change.
mm.
I was very critical in this video, but I still can't deny that like I'm still thinking about buying it someday. It's pretty batshit, and I do like batshit.
I mean, yeah,
And
there
there's
are
some very fun
definitely times I'm going to be in the
performances.
mood to watch it. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
again, Heather really carries it. You
She
know,
gives me life.
it makes no sense to me. I forgot to mention this earlier. Someone throws a rock through Darla's business. What was that?
Yes.
Oh, it was probably the wife of some guy. And I forget it's
Yeah.
either a guy she fucked or a guy that's just hot for her.
Right.
So she flashes her fake tits out the window. If it was the wife of someone, why would that be the response? I don't understand it. And then I realized, oh no, maybe you're flaunting. Like, you know what? Fuck you. You don't have these,
Yeah,
bitch.
exactly.
But then a car drives by with some hoot and hollering boys. She goes, or it's the high school boys who want to. So then you're going to
So it
indulge
doesn't,
them by showing your boob.
yeah.
This scene, this dialogue doesn't make any sense.
No.
Also, if boys want to see boobs, they wouldn't throw a glass through your window and then drive away really fast. They wouldn't get to see your boobs. This doesn't make any sense.
Didn't she also say that they'll do anything? And that I feel like she solved it for me. I was just
Yeah,
kind of like,
no, no.
oh
But then I find out
no,
she's
like
a
oh,
crazy
like
bastard.
those boys will do anything to see my girls or whatever she's. I don't know, but it's something like
No,
that.
again, she puts on a better public face than Drayton does. But even when you're at her office listening to her talk, you're like, no, you're not all the way. What
No.
are you?
Oh God.
So much so that you are in a drive-through with people around, and I can't believe
Yeah.
she gets out and like lifts the trunk. Anybody, yeah, she's clearly not operating. She definitely, if she's not part of that family, she belongs in that family.
Yeah.
Also, we didn't mention
Yeah.
this for no reason whatsoever. Are called the Slaughters and not the Sawyers in the fourth movie.
Yeah. I didn't even really put it together because I was like, but I saw the name for Leatherface. It was Leatherface Slaughter, and I was like, what's up with that?
You know, pardon
But
me.
I
At
never
one
got an
point,
answer.
retconned or like did the head canon of like we didn't talk about this in 4, and I guess we should have. That family, like I believe the family in 3 is still related to the Sawyer family. When we get to
Sure.
4, I don't believe that like Vilmer and WE are relatives of his. You know, like maybe they're supposed to be, but I don't buy it. I don't feel like they're like this other cousin and that Leatherface now went and joined this part of his family. And the
No.
fact that the Illuminati are involved, I almost would easier believe in my head, the head canon is that like this family was assembled. Vilmer kind
Oh,
of this, yeah, like the Illuminati
that
are
makes sense.
creating. Vilmer has recruited that this is the household that is
Yeah.
going to be doing this terror to people. And to me, I buy that way more than this being like the next family of Sawyers in the line of Sawyers for him to find.
Right. It's a makeshift. Yeah, yeah, the assembly. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Ooh, I'll watch it through that lens now too. I'll just be
I've
kind of
always felt that
like
way.
they're agents, like brought together to like play a family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, see, there's only going to be
And
more
that's
to
why it's almost
mine
like a
with that
job
movie.
for like
Yeah.
WE and for Vilmer and like calling it like it feels like a job and Leatherface is definitely not as clued in the way they are, so he can fall in line rather easily. And it's not even the same. Like at least the grandpa in 3 and 2, they all still kind of look like the same grandpa's 1 to a certain degree. But you know they have that dinner table full of people, and there's sort of a
Mhm.
grandpa, but he's just a guy
Yeah.
painted in foundation.
Yeah.
Although I do love that he's like,
Oh,
well,
he's a
fuck this shit, and then he just
yeah. Yeah.
all right.
Um, he looks like in Scrooge the musical, the Jacob Marley, the ghost of Jacob Marley makeup they put him on. He's just an old man, just like this.
I was
But
thinking he looked like Scrooged when what's his nuts is they find him frozen in the
oh
sewers.
yeah, totally, yeah, yeah. The guy who calls him Dick.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was going to say something. Oh yeah, there was one more thing about before that I didn't get to say before that I really appreciate Renee Zellweger for when she, and it's I don't know, it's not her at all. It's her stunt double on the roof at one point.
The
It's so clearly
blatantly
her.
blonde,
Yes,
super platinum wig.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But what I appreciate the stunt double doing is jumping on that fucking telephone wire,
Mm.
or power line, whatever you want to call. I don't know what it is. Whatever
It's a
provides.
cable of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah, something. That wire, just jumping, just leaping onto it, and then climbing and everything like that. I'm just like, this final girl is agile. I appreciate. I appreciate.
Oh, I just like that moment too, because when you're up there and where else can you go? If I was up there, I'm like, well, if it's either death or that, I guess I'm jumping on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't watch these in chronological order, this is the first time I've watched all of these movies this close together, because I do have a legitimate, like, I'm afraid right now. Seriously, I have like imagery in my head that I'm going to have to lose after we finish this, just so
Thank,
I can
thank
sleep.
goodness
Because
I
I
don't
don't know if you
have
can hear my
that with
voice.
this
I'm
series.
tired. Huh?
I said, thank goodness I don't have that with this series.
Yeah, good for you.
That's
But no, because I mean, like, I have to space it out, because if I watch them too close together, it lives in here. It stays, and it stays rent free, and that fucking sucks.
We've
It's
talked
like, at
about
least pay rent.
we've talked about like doing Insidious at some point, and like if I had to watch all of
Oh
those and then
god.
talk about it all night, like that I would have a hard time with, because so much of those movies are just like in a house and you look down a hall and there's like a creepy guy smiling. When I end this
You had to
video,
say
and
that now, didn't you?
I did, fuck you.
God damn it.
When I end this video and go out in the hall, I I'm not worried about a Leatherface being down the hall. I don't have, you know what I mean? Like I
You
won't
have
have
to
that
stop talking
care.
right
I
now. You
won't
have
no,
to
but like I'm not in a rural area. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not at a meat packing facility.
no,
Whereas
but you're
whereas with Insidious, I would have that when we wrap this up. I'd be like, you know, when you turn on the light before you get to the end of the hall, like all that kind of shit. I'm not gonna have that with Texas Chainsaw because I can separate enough. But you know,
I'm already afraid, and you're putting more imagery in my head. Like, now I don't want to look down my hallway.
yeah, because when you turn the light on, it's like the radio station. Like he's just there with the lights.
Stop it. Stop it. You're so mean. You're such a son of a bitch. No,
I
because
am the Hannibal of our friendship. You know
yeah,
this.
right. No, because that actually, but talking that, just to try and get myself some semblance of sanity again, talking about that franchise would be easier for me, because at least I'm starting off with the one that scares me the most. It gets, I don't know if it gets
Yes.
progressively less scary for me as I move through it, but I'm those sequels, that no spoilers,
Right.
but yeah.
I own them all, and I find value in some of the later sequels, but nothing can touch that first one. Jesus.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'm
Uh,
not talking about it anymore.
yeah. I recommend also, everything feels better when I've got my phone and I'm watching like something funny on YouTube and just carry it with me. That really helps a lot when I'm like moving about, like, you know.
No, too much
Never.
shit turns ironic for me.
Well, you have to curate what you're watching, because I'm like, I can't
Exactly.
watch something that like would be ironic if I got killed while watching this. It needs to be at
Exactly.
the right level, you know.
I just thought about Psycho 3 when the Woody Woodpecker laugh is happening. And, and Norman's just like, stop laughing at me, mother. Stop laughing. And he just bounces down a road, and I'm just like, yeah, that would be creepy right now if I listen to Woody Woodpecker laughing on a loop. It's too close to Jack Nicholson's.
Yeah.
That used to freak the shit out. Okay, we're done. We're done. Cut.
Bye.
Bye.
Cry.